All right. Okay. So, welcome, Lisa Hamilton, physical therapist, to Missoula Health and Wellness Conversations. I'm excited to have you here with me today. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Anna Sulia, and I'm a physical therapist and also the owner of Inertia Physiotherapy here in Missoula. And as I said, we're speaking with Lisa Hamilton today, and she is a physical therapist with a wealth of experience. She's been a PT for 32 years, but she's also a movement instructor, an educator, a mother, a daughter, partner. She's an all-around curious and wonderful human being. And she and I largely connect on the same ideas that we really want to help people live longer and live better. And so we just want to talk about kind of what Lisa's been up to these days and developing her her business and what she's doing to help people here in our Missoula community. So welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, Anna. It's great to virtually see you
Yeah.
in these COVID times, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. As we know that we've had lots of conversations between us about a lot of topics related to health and wellness, and just how we as physical therapists can leverage our expertise into, like you said, helping people just live better and more fully, and with less pain and more enjoyment and flourish in their life. So that's kind of what I'm all about these days. Kind of taking my physical therapy hat and blending it with my movement educator teacher hat, and my desire to bring together kind of more holistic approach in helping people live longer and live better. So thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I've been a physical therapist for, I guess, going on 16 years now. And the longer I've kind of dove into my profession and where my education has taken me, it's just the treatment of singular body parts and this idea that you can sort of like pull something out of the whole and tinker with it and make it better just doesn't seem to be the solution for so many people. And a lot of people are really frustrated that the status quo or the standard routine isn't helping them. And so it's been really fun to get out on my own and be able to kind of explore that more freely. And really that holistic approach. And I say integrative approach because it's mind, body, soul, visceral organs, nervous system, and just treating the whole person. So
Right.
it's
Right.
good.
Well, yeah, and I think that's where you and I connect on so many levels, and because of the unique opportunity we've had in our careers as physical therapists to really spend time with people. I mean, we learn so much about their lives, about how they're moving and how they're sleeping, and what their family life is like, what their stress levels are. And it became obvious a long time ago to me that it wasn't just like, oh, I hurt my shoulder, what exercises can you
Mm-hmm.
give me? It's like, how do all of these things fit together to paint a complete picture of maybe what somebody presents in front of you as. And it's been really fun, and I think even for patients been eye-opening to connect the dots in themselves about, oh, how does my stress level affect my pain?
Mm-hmm.
And there's real solid science behind stress and pain science, and perception of pain. Or how does my terrible sleep, or being up with a 2-year-old, or taking care of an aging parent, what's that got to do with my neck pain? And I think it's been a great advantage that we have to be able to talk to people about how things all work together. And miraculously, sometimes when you get better sleep, or when your diet is better, or when your viscera are moving a little bit better, that sometimes problems kind of take care of themselves. Because I really believe that the body, again, is an integrated system, and we have really great power within us with some guidance, which is what
Mm-hmm.
you and I are all about. Is how do we guide people towards their best selves, and really educate them of how to tap into that kind of inner wisdom and inner healing that we all possess. So it's really exciting to to help people, as I take my twists and turns in my career, moving, less clinical and more movement based and more kind of
Mhm.
health life coaching, to help people realize that. So it's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, I think that people, our medical system has become so compartmentalized that you have your specialist for this and your specialist for that, and it's important. If you have a heart condition, you probably need a cardiologist, and if you have a mole that needs to be taken off, you need a dermatologist. And physical therapists have been, I think we walk a fine line with some people and go like, well, what's really the difference between you and say even a personal trainer? How can I, or a Pilates instructor, or how are you going to give me something different than a massage therapist? And so I think that, as physical therapists, we actually haven't done that great of a job even helping the public know really what we do. And then
Mhm.
we're so varied because I think you and I connect on a lot of levels, but we also do things differently. And so I think people wondering what physical therapy can do for them, when we start incorporating these lifestyle factors, and these, I'm talking to people a lot more about their diet and their sleep habits and those kinds of things, because I think some of those really foundational pieces, if they're not in place, it doesn't really matter if I give you the exact right cue to do your glute exercises. You may not see that your body change that much, and you may not see your pain levels reduce that much because of some of these other things you're talking about.
Right.
So I think it's important to have whatever system or whatever lens you're looking at the body with, is like, it needs to be the whole person, right? um and that's kind of, I mean, my driver, or my practice pattern is largely driven off saying drive a lot. What is the primary driver of this person's problem, right? So if
Right.
you identify
Right.
that it's stress and lifestyle, then we need to be working on those things. If you identify that it's, a mobility restriction, we need to be working on those things. So
Right.
tell me a little bit about kind of your sort of health coaching and lifestyle education that you've been working on clients with.
Yeah, yeah. So, just kind of piggybacking off what you just said, and I think, my approach to, really any problem is kind of what is the root cause. And we talk about that
Mhm.
in functional medicine. We talk about that in kind of your integrated approach of like, it's not just like, again, looking at the symptom, it's like, what's really behind that? And so,
Mhm.
what's really fun as, kind of moving into more of a coaching role and taking that expertise as a physical therapist is we're kind of like detectives, right? We're
Mhm.
kind of sleuthing around, like looking for clues and listening to people's stories and looking at how they move and doing some surveys about diet and lifestyle and all of that, and taking all these clues and maybe putting them together, and then helping to see where to start, like you said, of what's the driver, where to start. And so for me, kind of the foundation too is kind of where is somebody's head at, or sometimes call that mindset. Like,
Mhm.
what are you in a growth mindset? Are you looking to try something different to get better? Are you kind of stuck in the medical model of I need somebody to tell me what to do and
Mhm.
what exactly is wrong with me and that sort of thing? I find that we tend to attract people who are open to trying something different, who want to take all of these areas in their life and kind of mash them together and just kind of optimize their health, from a lot of different ways. And
Yeah.
like you said, I can give you glute exercises all day long, but that may not be the problem that, or the solution to the problem that you're having, although it may seem like it is. And
Right.
so it's exciting for me to really approach people as individuals, do some surveys, kind of see where they're at in their heads, and then set some goals for what are you looking to optimize in your life. And a lot
Yeah.
of times it's a combination of movement and mindset and nutrition. um I'm finding stress management, certainly in times of the pandemic, is a big thing. And so coming up with, well, first kind of uncovering as a detective what are some of the stressors. And sometimes that there are stressors in our lives that we don't even label as stressors. We'll say, well, I
Mhm.
don't really have that much stress, until you start digging a little bit deeper and uncovering a few things. And that I find that people are really hungry for that right now, of like
Mhm.
how to decompress a little bit, how to settle into a different way of looking at the world and themselves, and feel good about that. So that's been a
Yeah.
lot of my path recently. It's just kind of decompressing, de-stressing, finding some more mindfulness based activities and ways to approach things that can really be a jumpstart to kind of laying the foundation for kind of a healthier lifestyle, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I have seen a lot of people with, particularly even clients I had been seeing for a while that had some kind of strange flare ups, probably right around, early November. And then again in the last few weeks, with the really just unrest that's been in our country. And so, I think that it's important to know that, and people can take different approaches at this. And I think sometimes why then it's great to have this network of practitioners that you can work with, because as a more of this visceral manipulation that I'm learning about, and even and the whole body connection there, and saying, stress is something that we never get away from, right? There's
Right.
always going to be some stress present, whether it's wondering if your country is going down, or just your toddler didn't sleep last night and now you have to go to work and use your brain. And so some people manage that really well and other people don't. And it's actually, there are places in our body that we will take those emotions and store them for later, kind of, or like, I can't deal with that now, so maybe I store it down. And we can store it down in our stomach or in our
Right.
intestines. A lot of gut issues, that's our kind of mind body connection, that come up with stress. And I think a multifaceted approach to dealing with that is really important, because if I come into someone's abdomen and I uncover a restriction that's really attached to a more emotional center, um, they need to address the emotions in order to help address that restriction. Really, it's kind of a two-way street. So what are some of the kind of mindfulness techniques or tools that you, or resources that you talk to your clients about?
Yeah. Yeah. So, as I would call myself kind of a meditation mindfulness educator and teacher as well. So, in some of my virtual movement classes that I call mindful movement, we're incorporating some kind of just body mind connection, like really starting to kind of feel stress and sensations in your body, and to be able to differentiate that. Kind of along a line of a body scan or something like that. And
Hmm.
I've been doing a lot of research and participation in yoga nidra. There's some
Hmm.
solid science behind nidra, especially in I'm looking at the iRest version of nidra, and it's there's some solid pain science. As a scientist, I consider
Hmm.
myself and you to be,
Yeah.
behind, because sometimes it can feel a little woo woo and all of that. And it's not that I'm for whatever is going to get people to feel better. And if you want to label it as woo, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm just all about optimizing people's health and getting people better and to feel better about themselves. But yoga nidra for me, it personally has been great because it incorporates kind of that body mind. It's really tapping into some emotion, of our kind of our inner critics and, our inner mean
Hmm.
girls, if you will, and how we talk to
Hmm.
ourselves in our
Yeah.
body. And sometimes it's like we don't even know we're stressed until we know what it feels like to be decompressed. And
Hmm.
so I like some of the more body mind mindfulness activities in order so people can feel it in their body. Right,
Yeah.
because I feel like that really cements it in your nervous system. When you can feel it
Yeah.
in your body, like it feels this way when you're stressed and it feels this way when you're kind of decompressed, I feel like that cements it, in your nervous system. And there's solid science to approach that.
Yeah.
So I totally appreciate that. But, I think getting people in their bodies, we're so
Hmm.
dissociated from our bodies these days, and I think especially because we've been more confined to home, right? We're not interacting with people. We're not seeing body language. We're not having, we're not moving as much. People are, over the last year, maybe not eating as well. And now we're like, oh, it's a new year, time to do something different. And so,
Right.
here we are trying to, maybe incorporate some better health practices. And I really feel like kind of tapping into that mindfulness, body mind connection is really foundational. So that's been great.
I would agree with you. I have I've had some personal struggles with sleep for a while, and I have found some yoga nidra work has been really beneficial for that kind of quieting your brain, slowing down before bed, or even I've even used it just, I feel like I need to rest in the middle of the day, and you can throw on one of those, and it's like, I guess it's the yogic sleep, right? They kind of bring you out
Yes.
out of that, and it's sort of like this magical, like, I don't understand what just happened, but I kind of feel like I slept for 2 hours, but I just more like rested for 30 minutes.
Exactly.
And I'm with you. I think that a lot of these more complementary things, mindfulness practices, even the manual work that I'm doing in terms of the visceral release to the neural release, a lot of it is we kind of, and as Westerners, we feel like we need to understand why everything happens, right? We can't just have a sort of like, oh, well, it does. And so our scientific brains, and so we're kind of like reverse engineering these things now, I think, through pain science and through I definitely earlier in my career would have written off these things as kind of woo woo, and that's not my area, and I don't need to talk about diet, nutrition. I just need to, need to exercise and move. And I, through personal experiences where those things weren't working for me, and then just seeing your clients where you're like, wait, this isn't working. Okay, what road do I need to go down with you now? It's really powerful when you put everything together and you treat that whole person. And I think I say the proof is in the pudding. Yeah. Like, if you can call it placebo if you want, but if you do a simple technique, even a relaxation technique with someone, and suddenly they're, they can bend over and touch the floor, where before their back hurt so much they could only reach their knees. That's not, that's objective proof that you are moving better and functioning better. And the nervous system then will take the brakes off and say, okay, maybe if this is safe, I'm going to let you have that. And so I think, largely what we're talking about is finding the key that opens the door for the person that's in front of you, and say, how do we access this person's nervous system to make it happier, right? And what is that? What is that key? What is that fits that lock? And that's what makes us detectives, as you said earlier, because there is no cookie cutter approach, really. It's about listening to the person's story and their body, and building that relationship so that you can go down some roads that might be really uncomfortable for people.
Right.
You're dealing with you and I both deal with people who have kind of been through the ringer sometimes, and they haven't found an approach or a practitioner that's really, they feel like, has listened to them, and they don't feel like somebody who's really taken their whole situation and made sense of it to some degree. So I think that's
I think that, in thinking about what you just said, it backing up just a little bit, I think that, we there's evidence-based practice, and that was sort of the big push in our profession, as in a lot of medical professions. And I think, we can take more of an approach of more evidence-informed practice, right? How does this potentially work? And to your point, going back to function, right? Like, that's really what I care about, right? What we're trying to get people to function in their lives at a higher potential and capacity, which, again, kind of in my current work is like, not just extending people's lives in length, but like, how healthy are you, right? Because it's that concept of, health span versus lifespan. Like, we want people to be vibrant and healthy and happy and, functionally sound, for as long as they can be, and then not anymore. And so,
Right.
it's that long, slow decline, I think, that, is kind of my passion and mission of, like, let's elevate everybody to this higher functional level.
Mhm.
Something you said too, this cookie cutter approach made me think about a saying, and I'm going to butcher the exact words, but it's something like, as PTs, we get, well, you have a person that comes in with low back pain, or some kind of diagnoses or whatever. And, it's easy, I would say, to get kind of stuck in the mold, like, oh, I know all about that, or I've seen that before. And the saying goes something like, when's the last time you saw a person, with low back pain like this? Never, because
Right.
everybody's different, right? And even though you might have seen 10 people with the same diagnosis, they're all different because they have different stress and different family
Mhm.
situations. And to your point, diet, stress, sleep, all of those things that make that whole person. And so it's exciting to be kind of outside of the box, if you will, to really be able to help people in the best way possible with
Yeah.
whatever it is that they need.
Yeah.
And, again, I think it's our job to educate the public and our colleagues and the community as far as, what resources and who are we, and what resources do we have, and what's our knowledge base. And, you and I have done a lot of study outside of the kind of traditional realm. And I think people don't realize that physical therapists, can have a breadth of information and a depth of information that
Right.
maybe they're not aware of. So it's,
Yeah.
I think we're in an exciting times. It feels, I think, what did
Hmm.
they say? We're in the age of Aquarius now. So we're in some exciting times now for
Yeah.
some shifting of mindset and the way we're viewing the world. So it's pretty exciting. So
Yeah. I agree. And I think that the definitely coming out of PT school, they want to drive the home the like evidence based, but pretty early on, I think that we're seeing this now in other research, which is um like strength in particular, or mobility does not necessarily equal function, to your point,
right,
right? Like we'd have these, as physical therapists, we would read these articles where it would say, the maximum EMG output for this muscle is this exercise. And so everyone was prescribing side lying leg lifts and clamshells for everybody with low back pain. Um, and then you say to yourself, well, just because that muscle tests strong doesn't mean it's functioning, and that actually
right,
doesn't that's only one piece of this entire body. As we've discussed the dynamic slings of the body,
mm,
and how we don't work in isolation.
right,
We work in a as a dynamic body with a bunch of moving parts, and the muscles are just one part of that equation. And I know that you and I have talked a lot about this, and I know you talk to it about this with your movement clients, or you think about these with your movement clients. So maybe you could talk a little bit about kind of your experience with Pilates and Core Align, and kind of how you give clients a different movement experience that isn't so isolated and focused on just making one body part stronger.
right, right. Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, just to tie into what you said, that's why sometimes you can do all the clamshells and side leg lifts you want, and it doesn't fix the problem, right?
Right.
Because maybe there's something else going on with, that muscle not being, activated, because you're not in the right position from a structural standpoint or from an alignment standpoint, or perhaps that, your nervous system is not communicating in the right way, or whatever. So, yeah, I both of us have a Pilates background, and I think we personally found, as well as working with our patients and clients, that some Pilates based movements have been a different way to move and providing people with a different movement experience. What I love about it is, again, it's different, right? It's not just the same, rote exercise, and it can bring in kind of this whole body integrated movement.
Mhm.
So whether that's using apparatus like the reformer, I love the core align, which we have in our studio, to really practice functional movements with some dynamic challenges, because that's what real life's about, right? How do we
Mhm.
carry the kid on one hip and reach for something with our other arm while we're on an unstable surface, or getting people to feel movement in their bodies, and so the body can respond as it's designed to, instead of saying, well, I have to turn my abs on now, or I have to turn my glutes
Mhm.
on now. It's like, no, I want to put you in movement experiences so your body can get smarter and figure out, oh, I need to turn a little more of my deep core on to give this person
Mhm.
support so they can lift their kid overhead, or something like that. And so for me, it's about a whole movement experience, so you can get smarter and your body can
Mhm.
get smarter, and then you can do life better, right? Because it's not about what crazy yoga, Pilates moves you can do. I mean, although it's satisfying to do hard things, but it's like,
For sure.
how does that put you out into the world as a more functional human to, again, experience life at a higher level? And so I feel like, helping people understand how the body's all connected, how things don't move in isolation, how we get it to function more on this kind of feed forward, or, automated
Mhm.
system. Because I mean, goodness gracious, if we had to think about walking,
Mhm.
right, it would be really exhausting.
Yeah.
Although, and
Oh,
we talk about breathing a lot, you and I talk
yeah.
about that. Even though we know how to walk, we know how to breathe, perhaps our body has been in, dysfunctional patterns
Mhm.
for so long that it needs just a little education and retraining how to tap into maybe a more efficient, way of doing things, which
Yeah.
then for me has led me into kind of this mindset coaching too, because that's kind of goes along the same thing. We've been stuck sometimes in patterns that have served us for a while, and now they don't. And sometimes we don't know how to navigate the universe or our lives
Mhm.
working in the same pattern. And so it's kind of changing the view and changing a little bit of the patterning that can kind of open up a whole new realm for people.
Yeah. I agree. Even in my Pilates training, I feel like that opened up a lot of doors in terms of really seeing how a body moves, and
Mhm.
seeing how cueing either with your words or your hands can help someone take a different shape and activate a muscle in or a sling or a stability network, or even open up mobility in a way that they couldn't before with their normal pattern. And then getting some repetition in that, and helping their nervous system go, oh, this is how this was meant to
Right.
work, right? So kind of taking that functional overlap. Um, but I think that even the more that I read and the more that I work with clients, and especially the more complex people that have taken on, multiple providers and they're not feeling better. One of the things I think that PTs don't do as well as they could, but I think we're starting to see this, and I don't I think I'm working on understanding how to put this into my clients' bodies, is to not make everything so cognitive.
Right.
Because like, if you recover from a stroke, or maybe that's probably not even the best example, because things like PNF and came out of the neural rehab network because those people needed to relearn patterns, not parts, right?
Right.
But maybe someone who got an ACL surgery, and they're trying to get rid of a limp, and we put them in an environment, and we tell them, put your heel down, and then foot flat, and then drive through and push off your toe. And it's like you can see the gears turning in their head, and they're working really hard. And some of the new ideas about, like, that's putting a subconscious act into a cognitive realm isn't always the most successful way, and often not the most successful way. And it almost like just replaces that compensation with whatever I just told you to do. And it makes
Right.
people work really hard, but not very efficient. So
Right.
I'm working with a gal, and I don't think we've completed her rehab yet, But she came in with this kind of crazy robot walk and this list off to one side, and one arm didn't really move, and her pelvis was stuck square, and she had chronic hip pain. And that chronic hip pain she had treated half a dozen other ways and really never went away. But a combination of specific releases and then almost just saying, stop trying so hard.
Yeah.
Stop holding your core in every time you walk. Sort of let your new body line fall.
Right.
And trust that your nervous system actually knows what it's supposed to do now. Let it kind of take over. And she's had, about 5 or 6 weeks of no hip pain. We've got a couple other things, but the hip pain went away. That was a compensation, right? She was just, and almost like unintentionally reinforcing that problem with all of this mental effort of all these 5 other people that told her different things to try to correct her gait.
Right.
When gait really wasn't her issue, right? It was the symptom. The symptom was hip pain when walking, but the problem was nowhere near how she was walking, right? You had to fix the upstream problem. I say the upstream problem is this. The downstream issue is your symptom and your movement dysfunction. What is our upstream issue, and how do we fix that?
Right. Which gets us back into kind of the foundation of where we started this conversation of like, what's your driver? What's the root cause? What is the foundation, or what are your old patterns and ways of thinking that, keep you on that same path? And how can we change that a little bit? And what will that change then the output? One of my favorite things with clients is for them to say something, and I know you know this too, like, where should I feel this?
Right.
And I say, where do you feel it?
Do you feel this?
Where do you feel it? Right now,
Right.
where should I feel this? It's like, well, where do you feel it? And sure, then we can use our PT brains to say, okay, right, that's not exactly what I was looking for. Let me just try to put them in a different movement situation in order to get the result that I'm looking for, that will then impact their functional movement pattern. Not, we'll try to turn this muscle on a little better,
right?
Or don't do that. That's my favorite. Don't do that. Do this. It's like, no, people don't know those things, and it's again, to your words about this cognitive load. Like, let's take that away, and let's just let people feel it and experience it, and let their bodies figure out what it's supposed to be, and then it's going to stick.
Yep.
So
it'll stick a lot more if the nervous system is happy. It's going to be, that's a really interesting, just again, reflecting back to earlier career, where you would say, this exercise is supposed to strengthen that muscle, and therefore it's supposed to fix your problem. And you say the very more like therapist driven would be, this is strengthening your XYZ muscle. And then they go, if you don't ask them where they feel it, you figure that they're probably doing it right. But my Pilates training also went to say, okay, let's find out, what experience are you having? Let them do a few, and then say, what are you feeling here? And if they say, it's supposed to be their glute and they're feeling their quad, suddenly your job gets a lot harder, but also more interesting to say, why are they feeling their quad here and not the muscle that I intended? And so then the creativity, I love that, say like, okay, is this a motor control issue? Is there like a neural reason they can't access what I'm asking them for? Do I just need to change the position or the load? Maybe we need to stand them up and go higher load for a little bit. Maybe we need to lay them down or go sideways and change our angle. And I think that's what's so cool about the Pilates equipment and Core Align, is not that you can take a reformer home with you, but we can give you a different experience, and then give you a nugget of that experience to continue thinking about or working on at home. And if your nervous system had a positive experience, it's going to change the way you carry yourself, maybe how you stand in the grocery line, and how you hold your head while you work on your computer or your Zoom meeting.
Right.
So,
well, I think to your point too, what has been exciting for me along the years of just using the repertoire and using the apparatus, and then teaching people how to move in different ways using that equipment is just, the body wants these novel movement experiences. Our brain wants that in order, to continue to develop and to, be plastic. And then we talk about all of this neuroplasticity as the new buzzword, but it's really been happening all along, right? We just get stuck in our lane, doing it the same old way. It's like that, how many free throws did Michael Jordan do, the same way and not make them or whatever, right? If you keep shooting it the same way and missing, more times of doing that, it's not going to make a difference. So I think that's what's exciting for me, again, to your point, to get people on different pieces of equipment and have a novel movement experience. So their body, again, and their brain can connect to figure that out. So they can go out into the world and be more efficient and be without pain or whatever it is that there's desire to do. So
and I think
exciting.
that's an interesting, I think you said this earlier in the conversation, but kind of something just kind of you said just cued me, is the idea of like, everybody wants to be out of pain, right? But what do we want even more? Like, what's the next layer down? What is the emotion attached to being in pain? What is that pain preventing you from being able to do? Is it, everything from, run the 5K that you haven't been able to do, if that's your goal, or play with your grandchildren, or sit in your office. Okay, well, now those are the things I can't do. What's the next layer down?
Exactly.
I'm worried that I can't keep working, and then I won't be able to support my family if I can't sit in my office chair enough to do my job. Or I'm worried that, I'm missing out because my grandchildren are only little for so long. Or, running is really the thing that clears my head. And if I can't do that, I feel like a crazy person. I think being able to spend time and really kind of dive into that layer with people also kind of starts to unravel some things in their bodies.
I take my clients through an exercise similar, to that in a more formal way of, I call it the 5 whys, right? So, or maybe it's in a goal setting, I want to lose weight, or what, insert whatever word you want. Okay, well, that's what you want. Well, why?
Right.
And then what's the why after that why, and what's the why after that why, and what's the why after that why, down, more than 2 or 3 levels to get down to the bottom. And you want to be out of pain. Why will that help you? What will then, and then what, and then what, and then what? And I think that's where you get buy-in from people, where it's like, oh my gosh, this is what I really want. I want to be out of pain, but I really want to be able to, do X. And, if you as a practitioner with your team of experts and people in your referral network can help me get there, then I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
And for so many people, they don't get to that, both being coached by a practitioner or even within themselves, to really sit quietly and really try to discern, why is that what you want, and why is that helpful to you in your life? So, and I feel like that's a exciting thing that we get to do. And I love those sort of aha moments, or I call them light bulb moments, that people have, where they're like, oh, like, I get it. And that's that's so rewarding as a practitioner. It's like, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Right. It really, those are the great things. So
those are the days that fill your cup.
Those are the days that fill your cup. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Especially when you're, I think, we both have kind of found ourselves working with people that I say, like, I think if you continue to have a belief that you can get better, and you're willing to put in the work, and in whatever form that is, to get there, then I'm on your team, and I'm here to help in whatever way I can. And if that's me and my skills, or if that's like, I have these other lovely people in my network that I might be able to kind of, put a piece of what they do into your program. That's kind of what I want these conversations to be about, so we can all kind of learn kind of where we are similar, but where also maybe we are a little more divergent.
Well, I think that so many people either they've told themselves or they've been told by medical practitioners or friends, or that they're broken, or that it's too late, or you have bad genetics, or and I
Yep.
think we're both here to say that there's a lot you can do to kind of break through that barrier and change sort of that limiting belief, um, that's your destiny, right?
Yep.
And so I think it's exciting. I think we're
Yeah.
we're doing
We're
revolutionary things in the
doing,
world.
that's right. So speaking of revolutionary things and people who maybe feel a little bit more like they're broken or their genetics have failed them, or they're just aging people and women. Talk
Mhm.
to me a little bit about what you're doing with your longevity project and your
Yeah.
osteoporosis people.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Longevity is another buzzword, I think, or at least maybe it's like when you get a new car, then suddenly all the cars on the road look like your new car. So maybe I'm just tuned into a little more, but just from my own personal experience, as an aging human, we're all aging every day.
Mhm.
And trying to build this foundation of health with a team, and in the best way I can, that's really led me to feel like that's my purpose now in the world, is to really help people uncover, what is their journey, and how can I help them in the different pillars of their aging process. And I mean, we're all aging, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to feel like, well, I'm not aging, I'm not an old person, or I'm a young
Mhm.
person. I mean, we all have things we can be doing at all the time to find that optimization in our health. And so part of my project, if you will, is to um, work one-on-one with people to uncover kind of what are some of the both health behaviors, as well as maybe mindset behaviors, stress, and those sorts of things, and uncover kind of what their life looks like, and how can we craft a plan or a blueprint that
Mhm.
can create a program, if you will, for that person that will help them get to wherever that they want to go. So I've been doing that quite a bit over the years with people that have come to me with osteoporosis. So osteoporosis, again, is like a bone health issue that can start in younger ages. They say that bone health starts, as we know, in your young years, when you're building bone through diet and exercise and all of that. Um, and working with people with osteoporosis, a lot of times they feel like they're broken. They go to the
Mhm.
doctor, they have a fall or a fracture, and then they learn they have this diagnosis, and they're told, well, just go take some calcium and vitamin D and walk a little
Mhm.
bit more, and you're going to be fine. And they're really feeling fragile. And sometimes they're told they're
Mhm.
fragile, that, if you
Yep.
fall again, you're going to end up in a nursing home. And you know what happens? Then you're going to die there.
Yep.
It's like, oh my gosh. Right. And so I feel like, tapping into this idea that there's so many things that you can do, from a lifestyle perspective, from an exercise perspective, from changing your mind that you're not broken, and tapping into some of the resources that you have within you and available to you in the health community, has been really monumental. And it's kind of funny, because just like we talked about excavating, there'd be times when I'm working with somebody with osteoporosis, and things will sort of come out that they feel kind of isolated and lonely,
Mhm.
which is not why they came to me to begin with. But that's what's kind of inspired this longevity project, because it's not just about health and exercise, it's about things like connection and purpose and creativity, and to be fully whole humans, we have to have all those things in place. And
Mhm.
sometimes they're weighted a little more strongly in favor of one or the other. um, so that's been exciting for me to really help people kind of tease that out in their life, of where maybe needs a little bit of attention, so they can address their health issues a little bit better, but then it can just feel like more of a whole vibrant person in the world.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
exciting.
That is great. I mean, I think that's it's one of those things that for a lot of us is sort of like in the health history check, right? But
Hmm.
it's um, maybe not their primary concern, although sometimes there are some concerns. And kind of helping like you as a resource to have somebody, understand, like, do I need to be, afraid to bend over and pick up my shoe, or,
Right.
or to your point, I mean, I probably am guilty of using that sort of like, if you don't do your balance exercises, you're going to fall and break a hip. Like my earlier self that I, would probably thump on the back of the head at this point and say, maybe our words matter, right? So as healthcare
Words
providers,
matter. Yeah.
we, a more paternalistic way of like talking to somebody is, you're going to fall and break your hip, end up in a nursing home, or, guilting someone into using an assistive device, or, just those, there's a lot of different examples, but those things that create more threat in someone's brain about their body. And we know that that's just like one of the number one ways to enhance someone's sort of nervous system in a not so great way, and increase that threat, and then their pain levels and everything just kind of goes away from there. So I think having that foundational conversation of like, you're not broken, like this is not a death sentence, there are things that you can do that will help you. That's such a powerful conversation to have with someone. And when you connect with, it's just, I think it's wonderful that you're doing that.
And then you have to have the conversation. So I'm not saying it's just all like in your mind, right?
Right.
Like just you're not broken and just think differently. That's just a start, right? There's practical things you need to do so you don't fall and fracture, or so that you can build your bone density. I mean, there's solid science behind that. I just feel like people don't get that. They get a diagnosis or a DEXA scan, or they get some information and they say, again, they don't get practical advice. So what really should I be eating? Or how can I get more calcium from my food? And how do I track that? Or what are the most important exercises for me to be doing? And what kind of load do I need to be undertaking in order to really make a difference? And so, there's a real practical piece to me working with people in that population of like, I want to give you the real information in a program. So it's not just like, well, just go out there and walk and be careful. Right. We have to have, solid activity and knowledge, behind the information. And I think that's where people come out of an appointment, or, with their physician or whomever, or talking to family members, and everybody has their anecdotal stories about that happened to Aunt Marge. And this is what, and there's a lot of, it just makes things complicated. And so I think if we can simplify it, we can dial into somebody's own, kind of internal sense of well-being and their ability to repair, and positivity of self-talk, and then give them practical things to actually do and feel to get better. Right. It's this beautiful balance of, because you could give people a program and say, do this program, with these weights 3 times a week. And if they believe they're broken, or they believe they can't do it, and their mind isn't connected with that, then it's not gonna work. So it's just a combination of all those things put together. And so
I think ultimately what you're saying is like, you're empowering them with knowledge, and you're giving them awareness, and then you're giving them the tools to take care of themselves, but that you are always there to kind of back them up. It's kind of like, I think if you can't just threaten someone and say, here, do these. I think empowering people to take care of themselves is an important part of what we do. And that doesn't mean that, it's sort of like 6 visits and I'll see you in, never again because I fixed you. It's like, I like building the relationship, right? There's no magic in seeing someone twice a week for 8 weeks.
No.
There's more magic in developing, or it's not magic, but there's more value, I think, in developing a relationship with someone and giving them just what they need at the time. And then finding that next layer and saying, okay, you were successful with that. Like, what's our next layer, or what's our next chunk, or what's our next challenge? And giving it to them in digestible bites for whatever they're working on, so that they're not just overwhelmed with like oh no, I have to completely change my entire life or I'm never going to get better, or I'm destined to, the
Right.
nursing home. Um, so that's what I think also the way that we've kind of set up our businesses gives you the opportunity to build a lasting relationship with someone and be a resource for them if they need it.
Right.
And sit back in the wings if they don't, and have those conversations, and not make it all about me telling you what you should do, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
it's more, tailored to the person and what they need. And
Right. Well, and I think
yeah,
that's for me been kind of the shift from, kind of take on a more coaching type role, right?
hmm
There's you can be the expert, but when you're a coach, you kind of have to put your expert hat a little bit to the side and let people sort of come up with kind of their own plan based on their own life, right? And
hmm
if I think, well, somebody should be doing X exercises or number of exercises, and they think they can't, or they don't have time or whatever. I mean, I want people to craft their plan that they're going to stick with, right? Because it
hmm
doesn't matter what I say, it matters what they think, right? So, I mean,
right,
often I'll ask people, like, how much time do you have? Are you willing to do some things? Let's start with this one thing. And they
right,
may say, well, that's not going to fix my problem. Well, not alone, no, but that's where we're going to start, because
right,
we're going to build some confidence, as you said, with laying a foundation. And once we start to build that confidence, we can piggyback off of that to other things. So,
yeah,
because most of the time people are overwhelmed, right? We give people
totally.
20 things to do. I mean, that's, as PTs, we have people come into our offices, who've been to PT before with papers, and they're like, I have all these
hmm
exercises, right? And
Which
just like,
one of these should I
oh,
do? Which one of these should
right.
I do?
I mean,
Right.
guilty. It's like,
Yeah.
you want guilty, right? But how can we simplify it, dial it back, and make it so it's really what people need?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
think
I
that's
think that's what
the,
we're about.
yeah. Yep. I think so too. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Well, I am just excited to hear more about what you're doing. And, I feel like we're always kind of like ships in the night, kind
We
of.
are.
And I know you've been working on developing your kind of menagerie of things that you're working on and the different kinds of people that you're helping. So I guess maybe my last question would just be kind of what's your like what is your ideal client? Kind of in a short summary. And then if someone wants to find you or get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So my ideal client is for people who want to optimize their health and live longer and live better. So if you fit in that category, there's a lot of ways I can help you. I am seeing people virtually for movement sessions. I'm seeing people in person for private movement sessions. I'm doing some one-on-one coaching, kind of along the pillars of aging, and kind of dialing in with some inventories and trying to figure out what pathway is best as far as where do we start to optimize the health and wellness plan. I have a virtual movement class twice a week. So lots of ways to find me here in town as well as virtually. I'm on Instagram at Lisa Hamilton PT. There's some links in my bio there to some of the offerings that I have. My website's under construction, but you can find ways to find me and book a discovery session or a curiosity session, as I call them, of like,
Mm-hmm.
how can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's where, for me, this idea of longevity seems really broad, right? And a lot of times we talk about ideal clients of saying, I work with women who are over 50 who have this, and this. And for me, it's like, what are the things that you just want to help you optimize your life more, whether it's mindset, stress, nutrition, movement, and because as we talked about, all of them fit together.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I want to help people understand and then kind of go down that path where maybe needs a little more attention. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Great.
yeah, it's exciting.
Wonderful. It's very
Yeah,
exciting. Exciting stuff.
yes.
Well, I want to thank you again for joining me on this
Mhm.
little Zoom cast. And we'll just keep talking and keep the conversation flowing and keep new ideas flowing. And really excited to see what the future holds for both of us.
Sounds great. Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you
Anna.
so much, Lisa.
Bye-bye.